Mike, we just spent probably an hour going through all of the major information from the Insomniac leaks, and I showed you a 25-minute video of the Madripoor vertical slice for Marvel's Wolverine. So we saw some extended gameplay of the game in action, in engine. And in this mission, Wolverine was trying to find Mystique. That was the whole point of the mission, and we saw the whole mission from start to finish. And this once again takes place in Madripoor, and so that's why Wolverine's at the bar in the announcement trailer. He's there because he's looking for Mystique. So thoughts on the gameplay, Mike?
Yeah, from the gameplay we watched, I thought it was all pretty good. The combat itself looks very fun, pretty brutal and gory, fast paced, which I like. It actually fits Wolverine really well. Seeing it in action was even better because I wasn't really sure what to expect, when it was announced how it actually play out. But it actually looks really good in my eyes. I like the cartoon style cutscenes it goes into, and the traversal looks really fun as well. Um,
I'm going to mention now these because I have the video pulled up.
uh huh.
I'm not going to show any of this in the actual video, but all of this is concept. So this isn't going to be,
Oh, so that's still a concept.
yeah. All of this is going to be replaced by the in-game engine.
Gotcha. I thought it was just the style they were going for at first.
No. All this is unfinished.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, this is just a vertical slice. A vertical slice means that the game developers they're showing what what their goal is, like what they're targeting, what they intend the game to be.
Mm.
So not everything's going to be finished. So like a lot of this is just like cutscenes and whatnot was unfinished. That's why they have the concept art right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, as you
Uh,
were.
yeah, other than that though, the gameplay looks really good. I think the Insomniac really knew what they were going for, and the development is actually moving along real well. Even like the smaller pieces right here,
Mhm.
that's not really combat based. It's typical, but it works out really well. It's not really irritating at all. Easy for the player to follow along. So it looks like it's actually working out really well with the game. So I'm excited to see more.
Yeah. How do you feel about the story? Because in this mission, it appears that Wolverine and Mystique are on the same side, or they were from my take of it, it looks like they were on the same team, and that they're working for like Mr. Sinister.
Hmm.
Um, and as we know from the leaks, Mr. Sinister is like the final boss of the game, and it's being portrayed by Troy Baker. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not sure if how close that is to the actual comics, because as far as X-Men goes, I'm only familiar with like the cartoons and the movies. I'm not really familiar with like the comics like that. So yeah, I wasn't sure about the dynamic, but I thought it was interesting, honestly.
Yeah,
How'd
yeah,
you?
definitely. I think it's leading into the betrayal.
Well, we know that Wolverine fights Mystique at some point because of one
Mhm.
of the leaked concept art. So yeah, I wasn't sure exactly where they were going with that whole dynamic
Hmm.
between Wolverine and Mystique, but yeah, that's like I said, it's very interesting dynamic that they have between the two in the game. How'd you feel about like the open world stuff and the stealth gameplay that we saw?
The stealth, it's pretty simple, but it doesn't really have to be more than that. Um,
I
it
agree.
still looked, yeah, it still looked fun, and just doing its job and moving things along. The open world itself too, even though we didn't get to see all of it, like I guess the collectibles and other side activities,
Hmm.
the traversal around the cities and the jungle. looked pretty great in my opinion. So I'm
It's
looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's very clear that they took inspiration from the God of War games. And when I say the God of War games, I'm talking about the newer ones, God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. This game takes a lot of inspiration from those, which I think with me not really being a fan of those games, I think that's a good thing ultimately. If
Hmm.
there's anything that the newer God of War games does well, I think it is the interaction with the open world hubs that are in those games and the environment and whatnot. I think they did a great job there. I don't think that it particularly fits the God of War IP, but just ignoring that and just playing those games, as is, I
Hmm.
think they did a good job with the traversal and the open world sections. So, it looks like that element of with the traversal and what have you will be it'll be one of the stronger elements with Marvel's Wolverine. Now, as far as like the the graphics and the in-game engine and the weather effects and everything, it looks like a lot of what we saw was unfinished, but
Hmm.
it looks like they're pretty far along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how do you feel about like the actual like graphical presentation and everything?
Um, just far back, a little back, just like that city shot, I think it
Yeah,
looked pretty great. Uh, some things still look a little odd, but yeah, but that's just because it's not finished.
right.
But overall, the presentation looks great.
I really like the visual style that they're going with, including like the census mechanic, which just looking when I first saw gameplay footage for it, it looked a little cheesy. But I also recognized that it wasn't finished. But this looks closer to what the final version of it is going to look like. Yeah, it looks, just from a gameplay perspective, it looks like they had to include some kind of visual element in order to help guide the player along. Because Wolverine, he doesn't actually see like ghosts or anything. He just he's able to distinguish between different scents and whatnot, like he has a dog's nose basically.
Hmm.
But they had to put like some kind of visual cue on screen for the player because it's a video game. How do you feel about that?
It's pretty common in games now, so I'm not surprised to see it. And I always think it actually is pretty helpful. I can't remember the name of the game, but I think they tried not doing this because they didn't want to seem like they were holding the player's hand.
Right.
But for me, it made it a lot more frustrating
Hmm.
experience. So something like this, I actually enjoy. It's actually pretty helpful.
Well, what this mechanic actually reminded me of, the senses mechanic, it reminded me of the hearing mechanic, the listening mechanic in The Last of Us,
Hmm.
which is very similar. Now, with that mechanic, you can see enemies through walls and whatnot. That's not what this is. It looks like they're using this purely as, I guess, a scripted story mechanic. They're not
Hmm.
really using it, in terms of the actual, like anything having to do with the combat or the stealth or anything of that nature. It doesn't look like they're using it for that. But they also included this thing where he's able to track footprints, and those are like highlighted on the ground. They're
Yep.
highlighted in yellow. That's another element that they included. So he's able to track and what have you. Some of the stealth gameplay that we took a look at, you're able to take out targets and then similar like a Metal Gear Solid style, you can pick up dead enemies and hide them in you know different areas of the environment where they won't be detected. You can also, like, if you're caught in the stealth segments, Wolverine can run around the environment and lose the enemies can lose his line of sight, and then you can re-enter stealth. So there's more going on with the stealth in this game than what you have in the Spider-Man games. Now, some people are still going to complain because we've seen all of this before in different games, but honestly, there are some people that will complain about anything, you know.
All right.
Um, just judging on what we've seen and what they have here, it fits the character of Wolverine, and it looks like the definitive version of what Wolverine should be in video game form. This looks much better than any other game that I've seen Wolverine be included in, which includes the popular X-Men Origins game that everyone loves. This looks like that, but much better.
And
Um,
it's not really long and dragged out either.
no, you're talking about the length of the game.
Nah, like the stealth sections right
Oh,
here.
okay, yeah. Now, how do you feel about because I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel about the length and whatnot? Because we know that the game's going to have 40 missions with some side content. Um, we know that the game's going to be 15 hours long. 11 hours of that is going to be gameplay, and then the other 4 hours is going to be cinematics. And then
Mhm.
the cinematics, on average, is going to be 6 minutes in length each. So the game is going to be, pretty standard. It's going to be about as long as The Last of Us was, and slightly shorter than Marvel Spider-Man 2. How do you feel about the length and what they're going for?
Uh, Seeing it at first was a little disappointment because it is kind of short,
Yeah,
but it makes me wonder if their goal really is just not to bloat things up and just make a good memorable experience, even if it is kind of not real lengthy, because they don't want to go like Assassin's Creed, where you have a whole bunch of stuff. The game's long, but you kind of get bored and tired of doing the same thing over and over again.
yeah,
And
yeah.
plus,
They're
it has
not.
a deadline too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not making. I see what you're saying. They're not making, like, as you mentioned with the Assassin's Creed RPG games. They're not making this a marathon game. You know,
yeah,
where it's like one of those things that's just doesn't want to end, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Um,
yeah,
yeah, which eventually you experience burnout with that shit, and it gets old very quickly. This is going to be a weekend game. Is what I call it.
yeah.
Um, like Marvel Spider-Man 2, that was a weekend game. It came out. I played it for. It came out that Friday, and I was done with it by Saturday evening. I was finished with it. So that's basically what this is going to be. I don't really have an issue with it. Some people are going to have an issue with the length and what have you. The game's too short, but it's about, as I always say, it's about quality over quantity.
Yeah,
You don't want to have a game because we have plenty of long-winded RPG style games and what have you. This isn't an RPG. First of all, it's an action adventure game that's set in like so a few different open world hubs. It doesn't need to be 30 plus hours long. Um,
yeah.
yeah, this doesn't need to be that long. Hell, I felt God of War Ragnarok. I thought that was too long. I think that game was like 23 to 25 hours or some shit. I thought that was
Mhm.
too long. I was feeling the length on that. 15 hours, beat it in a weekend. That's cool with me, as long as the game is fun and the story is engaging and the characters are engaging and what have you. I'm good. I don't
Mhm.
need to be slashing around with Wolverine for fucking 30 plus, going on 40 hours. Eventually some games that they're so long to the point where they wear out their welcome, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, so clearly Insomniac, their sweet spot is like between 15 and 20 hours. Like the last Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart, that game was short. That was a 12-hour game. That's what they're going with here, and again, I don't really have an issue with it. How do you feel about the voice acting?
The voice acting, I didn't have a problem with it either. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, some people like I did a deep dive video of this, and the video was taken down, and then I re-uploaded it, and
Hmm.
together the views they count for over 1800 views. The first upload obviously had a lot more views than the second, but
Hmm.
one of the complaints or whatever that people were talking about or were concerned with in the comments was who they chose to play Wolverine, which is oh, what's his name? Because some people were saying he's from like Spartacus or some shit. Okay, Liam McIntyre.
Hmm.
He's playing Wolverine, Logan Wolverine in the game. He has the voice. Like a lot of people were concerned. For those people who are concerned about him, you don't need to be concerned. It sounds like Wolverine.
I
He
agree.
has the gruff voice that Wolverine has or should have. And I also saw I'm not sure if you remember, but I mentioned that I saw some mocap footage of, and I believe it was Liam McIntyre. It was like an extreme close up of him, and it looks like they were ready to shoot a scene, and he was just getting in the character. And I heard his voice in that video, obviously, and it's deep, but it has that edge to it um,
Hmm.
that fits the Wolverine character. So, yeah, for anyone who was concerned about Liam McIntyre playing Wolverine, you don't need to to be concerned. They chose him for a reason. Not just with him, but the other characters too. They have a good voice with Mystique and some of the other characters and whatnot, based on what we saw of the vertical slice. So, yeah, everything's looking good. Now, what do you feel about the X-Men games that Insomniac is slated to release?
I definitely think this will be a good lead up to it because I
Right.
think that's something a lot of people really wanted been anticipating. And Insomniac, with as good as their reputation is, in my honest opinion, I feel they'll do good by it, and people won't have nothing to worry about. Now, you never really know, but Insomniac, they've been pretty consistent with it.
Well, I mean, Insomniac, for the most part, they've been almost 100% consistent since the very
Hmm.
beginning with
Hmm.
Spyro the Dragon. I don't even think Spyro the Dragon was their very first game, but that was one of their first major IPs. But I don't really have any fears or anything with the X-Men game. We know next to nothing about it other than the fact that it exists. Um,
Right.
but I uploaded a video saying like what characters should be in it and what have you. I think once again I'm going to reiterate what I said in that video. I think there should be at least 10 characters, 10 playable characters. I listed a lot of the major ones that people know, such as Storm, Beast, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, maybe Gambit, Iceman, a lot of those characters that appeared in both the popular '90s show with the yellow costumes and then in the movies and
Hmm.
whatnot. Cyclops, obviously, that's another one. All of those characters should be playable. But I think some people are going to have the wrong expectation. Maybe some people are going to go into it thinking that Insomniac's going to make like an X-Men Legends type game that's like a top-down asymmetrical style game, and clearly that's not what they're doing. Insomniac doesn't make games like that. This is going to be like a blockbuster, camera over the shoulder, perspective, big budget,
Hmm.
top of the line graphical engine type of game. That's what it's going to be. And then I'd imagine you'll just be able to switch the characters, in and out and what have you. There hasn't really been an X-Men game like that. I think that we're all in for a good treat over the next decade and counting. The only concern I have is with the live service stuff that they're planning. I have no idea what they're
Yeah.
how that's going to turn out. What do you have any thoughts on Spider-Man: The Great Web and
Uh,
the live service stuff that they're planning?
it definitely seems they're doing the typical stuff you usually always see with live service games. But I think we really just have to wait and see if like the whole multiplayer loop is actually fun enough. The whole gameplay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I have to see what it is. You know,
Yeah,
I
it's
have
so
to
hard to say.
yeah, I have to actually see it in action. We don't know exactly how that's going to turn out. The only thing I can say about it right now is that the concept is interesting,
Yeah,
and
I'll say that.
so yeah, so I mean, the idea of it, they have a pretty good idea of what they want that to be, but I don't know how it's actually going to play. So,
Hmm.
that remains to be seen. As far as the we already know that they're planning an online component, or were at some point planning an online component with Marvel's Wolverine and Marvel's X-Men. I think that's really just going to be a co-op experience. I don't think it's going to be,
Yeah, it could be.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything major. But time will tell as far as that goes.
Hmm.
Before I close out this video, we have a Blade game coming out. As far as all the superhero stuff that's been announced, we have a an Iron Man game from EA that's being developed by the same studio that produced Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I forget the name of that studio. We have a Black Panther game coming out from Sledgehammer Games, which is a new studio that's also being produced by EA as well, or it's being published by EA. We have the Wonder Woman game from Monolith Studios and WB Games. Hopefully, that's not a live service game. We'll just have to see, because WB Games has been riding the live service train hard the last few years, and they're still on that train now. If Mortal Kombat 1 and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is any indication. So there's that. We have the Blade game that was just announced that's coming out, that's being developed by Arcane Studios. We have Marvel's Spider-Man 3, Marvel's Wolverine, and Marvel's X-Men, which is going to be a trilogy, still coming from Insomniac Games. Is
Stacked.
there any other superhero that deserves a game that hasn't been announced yet that you would like to see a game for? I can think of one.
Who?
Daredevil.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a Daredevil game would be fucking amazing.
That definitely would.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. But yeah, is there, besides Daredevil, is there anything else?
I won't lie to you. I would like to see an actual good Hulk game. If they could do that.
I The Incredible Hulk is very difficult to do. Um,
Hmm.
there was, back in the, I think it was the mid 2000s, we got Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which that game was actually a sequel. It was a sequel to that piece of shit Hulk game based on the Eric Bana movie, the Ang Lee film of the same name that I actually covered on the channel. Besides Hulk Ultimate Destruction, there hasn't been a good Hulk game before or since. A Hulk game would be interesting, but it would be much harder to do. It would have to be an open world game of some sort. Honestly, with the Hulk game, I don't think the Hulk would fit that well with the the new cinematic style that video games are typically known for now, especially with what Sony does with a lot of their first party studios. I don't know who would actually make it. I don't think it would come from Sony. It would have to come from a different publisher if they were to do a Hulk game. I'm gonna say an interesting pick that some people are going to be turn their noses at, which is a game based on Captain Marvel. Now, when people think of Captain Marvel, they think of the mediocre movies with Brie Larson, um, that a lot of people
the
don't like.
the one you
Um,
showed me, if it was it was wild.
the recent one that came out, the Marvel,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, the reason a Captain Marvel game would be interesting is because of her powers. She's not a very interesting character, at least not from the movies and whatnot. So if you only know the character from the movies, then it is what it is. But as far as her powers go, Captain Marvel is one of the most powerful Marvel characters in the brand. She can fly in space. She can fly, period. But I mean, she can fly in space without a spacesuit.
Hmm.
She has these ridiculous powers to the point where she can take on an entire fleet by herself. I mean, her powers are based on light or whatever. So, she has these energy blast or energy neon beams or whatever the fuck it is that she can fire from her hands. I mean, it would make for an interesting game if you
Definitely
ask
something
me.
different too, I'd say.
Yeah, 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 it would. It would. So, I'd be down for a Captain Marvel game, honestly. I don't think it'd
Yeah,
ever
that
be
sounds like a
made.
good idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna get made, but shit, you never know.
Hmm.
Is there any other character?
Mm,
I can't think of any.
nothing.
I was gonna say the X-Men, but we know that's coming, so we're getting a Black Panther game. That was on my list at some point a few years ago. I was like, there needs to be a Black Panther game, an Iron Man game. Both of those are coming. So
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything, honestly. I like characters like
Have,
Captain America and Black Widow, but I don't think they really need their own game like that. You know,
have they already done a game for Thor?
not outside of the movies, no. And again, Thor, if they do like a Thor game, it's not gonna be the the popular Chris Hemsworth version. It's gonna be the less popular comic book version of Thor. You know
Mm,
that's another thing. A lot of the characters that lesser known Marvel characters are popular only in the movies
mm,
because of the movies. No one gave a fuck about Thor before the movies came out. So
mm.
that's it's one of those things. Yeah, I can't really think of anyone else. Um, I just need a Daredevil game. That's it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that's it as far as I'm concerned. What about from DC?
Mm,
Right now, the only company that's making DC superhero games is WB Games, which concerns me. That they're the only ones that's publishing DC related games. It would have to come from them. But we're getting a Wonder Woman game, and that's cool. That's fine. They really need to figure out a Superman game. So
you're right on that.
either a Superman game or a Justice League game. And Rocksteady they dropped the ball pretty fucking hard with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Hmm.
Even though the first 3 hours of that game turned out to be better than what you and I were expecting, it's still not really the game that I wanted, and it's not the
Hmm.
game a lot of people wanted. And some more of the story leaks have since come out, and they're doing like some major retcons that are unpopular.
Hmm.
Like they brought back Poison Ivy, even though
Mm.
she died in Batman Arkham Knight, and they brought her back as a child. They straight up went Baby Groot on her ass. Yeah, there's a picture right there. That's from the game.
What the heck?
Yeah, that's what I said. And then she lost her memory too, so she doesn't remember the fact that she was a villain. It's so fucking stupid. I don't know what the hell
Man,
they were thinking. But yeah,
how'd you feel about a proper Aquaman game? I remember there was one that came out on the GameCube.
an Aquaman game would be awesome, but I don't think it's ever gonna happen. I don't think he's popular enough a
Mm,
character. Hell, the second movie just came out and people are shitting all over it. So
damn.
yeah, of course that has less to do with Aquaman the character and more to do with the fact that the DCEU is a piece of garbage and it just
Hmm.
needs to die and end. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Marvel's Wolverine and the Insomniac leaks and superhero games and everything else. Yeah, when we see more footage, when more is revealed, and it's worth talking about, making a video about, I'll definitely get something going and get it uploaded on the channel. But yeah, any final thoughts, Mike?
I think the game will definitely be good. No
Marvel's
Insomniac.
Wolverine.
Yeah. Insomniac, they know what they're doing, know how to put out a game in a proper amount of time and have a good job of actually making a quality game. So I think a lot of people would definitely be excited for this one for sure. Yeah, that's all for me.
We're looking forward to it. The game we know is coming out in 2026, so it's still 2 years out. Shit, a lot can happen in 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot's coming out between now and then. We can wait. Insomniac, just keep doing what you're doing.